Hello, welcome. I thought it might be fun to repaint this picture I had done a while back ago using the same colors and kind of just playing with that. So I'm bringing in the yellow ochre to the sky and I'm using a mop brush. I did tape down my 100% cotton paper with some Holbein tape and I taped it on this plexiglass so that I could move it if I wanted to, and it just kind of protects my surface from paint. But I'm using Roman smalls today, and I'm not going to say each color because I think it's fun to use what you have versus rushing out and buying the same colors. And the idea of tutorials and demonstrations is that you find your own style, you find your way that is right for you with what you have, the tools you have, the colors you have, the brushes you have. So while I'll mention what I use, I don't necessarily want you to run out and get that. I want you to explore what you have already and see what works for you and find what, works. So I'm going to put in this little dark along the horizon so that I can get some bleeds at the top and the bottom, and they can kind of, draw your line there, but also merge the two together. I'm going to use these little, I'm going to use this rigger to make these little tree shapes, and they're very loose right now. The paper's still wet, nothing's dry, and so everything's bleeding and kind of melding together. So this dark brown color is just melding in with the browns and the oranges I have above, and soon enough, I'm just going to keep playing with this, and then I'm going to merge that foreground in. And so I'm just adding a little more paint to this horizon line so that when I do what I'm doing now with the green, I get those lovely bleeds and mixes without actually having to mix it on the palette. These are fun and organic. I love when these happen, these mixes on the paper. I think you learn a lot from them, and I think the unexpected makes, watercolor so magical for us. So I'm just going to keep adding a few different greens and just play, and then I'll add some yellows and a little bit of more orange and just see what these yellows and greens and oranges do. And I did leave a lot of white space right there, so I'm going to kind of end up kind of blending it in a little more. I think it was too abrasive. Now maybe if I did an underpainting where maybe I put a lighter color underneath and then went back over it with this color and left the white space showing a little bit, that might have been something I could have done, but leaving it white would have been a little too much for me. So I do like to bring some dark colors down into my foreground, especially the very, very front, that very, very front line right there. I'm not sure what that would be called. Just the very, very front foreground. But I like to get a little darker there. And this one went a little red for me, so I'm going to darken this up in a second because it's not my usual style to put such a warmer, bright color there. It's usually, I like dark. I really, really like dark in my foreground. So if you can do what you like, do what makes you happy and what feels right for you. So I'm just going to keep playing with these colors, mixing them into there I dropped my brush. Whoops. It always loves to flip out of my hand. I'm just going to keep playing, and I'm going to blend, and I'm going to play a little more, and I'm going to swish a little more, and just mixing things up so that nothing looks too, put there on too much of a purpose. I like things to be random and to be a little less refined and less, structured, I guess. So I'm just going to keep going with that and keep making these colors kind of merge so that they're less of a line. And I do like to use the hockey brush for this. It's dry, and I just like to very lightly brush it over my paint, and so that it kind of helps smear it, if you will, right? Just loosens up the lines if I have any in there, anything that looks too forced. And so now I'm just trying to figure out what to do. So often I don't know what I'm doing. So I often just keep playing. I see what it needs. I look back. I'll often stand up and I'll, kind of check out what's going on as it is, and I'll add and take away. And so I felt like it needed a little more darkness, although I really like the lightness in the left picture. But again, I'm not here to replicate it. So I'm just kind of, doing what feels right in that moment. And I guess that's what felt right in the moment. And so looking back now, watching myself do this, as a voiceover, so I did it before, and now I'm looking back, looking at myself here. Would I have done that again? I don't know, right? But that's the fun of watercolor. You can repaint something 5 different times and it will never look exactly the same, which is the best thing. So I did let the background, or I let everything dry, and so I'm going back in with whatever brush works for you, and I'm making a little more defined trees back there, and darkening some things up, and just kind of making sure things have a little more, structure to them. At this point, I do like to kind of do that to my trees. Sometimes I'll leave them all fuzzy from the wet on wet, real wet loose look, but I do like to go in there and add some darkness to them. And I like to add the tops, the little pointy tops. And so maybe a few more. I do prefer, I didn't really seem to do it too much here, but I do like to leave the lighter bleeding looking trees as the farthest back trees, right? But I didn't do that here so much. I just kind of made them all dark color, and that's okay. This is just a quick, fun, under 10-minute play with color, play with ideas, right? And of course, I got a splatter. Always got a splatter, something contrasty, something that might help pop a little bit. It's usually a darker color or a bright pink or a bright orange for me. This one seems to kind of blend right in. I felt like I needed a little more dark to break up the kind of just monotony. It got a little monotonous, right? The other one has a little more light to it, and this one feels like it might be a little darker, and that's okay. It's just play, and we're just experimenting and playing and seeing what happens. It's also just paper, right? I can do this 5 more times if that's what I choose to do, and I might do this one over. I was really, really, really loving that not inspiration, but the piece I had done before, and I really love the colors and don't feel like I did what I wanted. See, I'm starting to overwork this bottom area. And you can flick the hockey brush up like I'm doing or side to side. You can use a dry flat brush. You can use any brush. It doesn't have to be that style of brush. And I'm also adding some signature scribbles right here just to kind of, again, add some depth right up front and just kind of bring that dark forward so that, the lighter back it goes, the farther back it is. And just trying to help myself here. Drawing in a few little weeds, little details. I always end with those little final details. I'm assuming everybody does, but mine tend to be darker. And yeah, I just try to add those in there where I think it might need something, and sometimes it doesn't work, and I'll go back in and see I'm kind of diluting it a bit and kind of spreading it out because maybe it just wasn't quote so right. And that's okay too. Nothing has to be perfect. It's all practice. It's all for fun. And it's all just to learn about yourself, right? Learn what you do, like what you don't like, what you want to do next time, what you don't want to do next time. Maybe you decide that, this made you really happy and you want to try some different things and it inspired you to do something different. Maybe you want to go vertical with it. Maybe you wanted to do different colors completely. Maybe you're like, nope, I don't like this at all. I want to try something absolutely different. And that's the wonderful thing about seeing other people's work and trying other people's styles, is that you learn so much about yourself right now. Oh, right now. Right now I'm adding birds. That's what I'm doing right now. I saw myself do that. I was like, okay, must talk about those birds. You can add birds or you don't have to add birds. Sometimes you'll see in my birds, I end up with little smiley faces, 2 eyes and a winky face or something. So often, I have to be careful about that. Otherwise I end up with little faces in the sky. So if you go back to my older pieces, you'll definitely see the winky faces. And I made that one a little dark. Sometimes I'll just dab it with a paper towel and see it looks much better after you kind of do that. And time to get that tape off. I do save my tape and I reuse that. So you'll see me I grab the tape at the other end so it doesn't fling up and roll on itself. And that's the perfect way to grab it before it does that, because that tape will stick to itself. So here we go. I'm pretty happy with it. Although I would love to try it again. I hope you try it and I can't wait to see yours. Bye.